Brother, that's just a surprise. He's got a degenerative disease that's eventually gonna kill him. At that time, he gets a big slap in his face. Can you imagine the betrayal? When he says it made him feel like he got licked in his head with a hammer, I know how that feels. But they are not your boys from you get that type of response. I'm telling you. And she went to Joe Grind and he done the business for the both of you. It's a bad attitude to accept.
A man who discovered after being diagnosed with the life-limiting illness cystic fibrosis that he couldn't be the father of his 3 sons because the condition causes lifelong infertility has told this programme the news left him feeling suicidal. Doctors revealed in 2016 that Richard Mason couldn't be the dad to the children, who are now 19 and 23. Richard sued his wife of 20 years, Kate, and they recently reached a settlement of £250,000, with her admitting she'd had an affair while the couple had been married. Well, we spoke to...
Hold on a minute. So he's got 3 sons, sued the ex-wife for £250,000. Let's say he raised those children from 0 to 18. One was 19, one was 23. They don't mention the age of the third one. Maybe that one is under 18. So what he got back in terms of fraud, £360 a month per child a year, over 18 years, 250 bags, reasonable.
His current partner, Emma.
When he said to me, "You've got cystic fibrosis," I immediately thought, oh my God, my sister died of that at 29. And her death was very hard for me because with cystic fibrosis, you slowly suffocate on your own phlegm. And it took her 2 years to eventually, waiting for a heart and lung transplant. And then she died on the operating theatre. So immediately I was just very saddened by that. But then when the discussion then turned to fertility, and he said, look, yourself and Emma, you know, you're going to have difficulty having children because you are, as a man with cystic fibrosis, infertile. It was suddenly like being hit by a sledgehammer. I just went, oh my God. You know, you suddenly realise that children aren't yours. So I said, well,
immediately you knew the significance of what he just said to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you?
There were medical experts in the room, and, you know, it's impossible without IVF for a man with cystic fibrosis to have a baby.
So then I said, well,
So you look at this, at the time when the man gets the worst news, got a debilitating disease, he's got a degenerative disease that's eventually gonna kill him and kill his sister. At that time he gets a big slap in his face to say that his 3 children are not his. Can you imagine the depth of the wound? Can you imagine the depth of the knife that was stuck into that man's back? Can you imagine the betrayal? Yeah, I made a video on how to detect people that will betray you. I'm gonna link to that in the card, and I made also another video about betrayal and how it feels. I was a person who was deeply betrayed by people that was closest to me, and I made that video because I know the betrayal and I know how it feels. That when he says it made him feel like he got licked in his head with a hammer, I know how that feels. It's the deepest psychological blow that you can ever feel in your life. Betrayal.
must have the diagnosis wrong because I've already got 3 boys. But I sort of was like clutching at straws there. So after that, it became a complete blur for me because it was almost like, you know, I don't know if you've ever hit your head really, really hard and it's like a ringing and you just, you can't see anything that's going on around you, you can't think of anything that's going on around you. It's almost like you just have this ringing in your ears, and it's all the implications of everything as a result of that start, you know, flashing through your mind.
Like what kind of questions are you then immediately asking yourself?
You just wanted to go straight to phone Kate, his ex-wife, say, Kate, spare me the dignity, just tell me the truth. Was there anyone else?
When I'd managed to compose myself, it was about an hour later, I sent her a text and I said, look, this text has been in the press, but it was actually repeated verbatim from what I sent to her, and it's still on my phone now. I said to her, look, I've just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. I'm not expecting you to be sympathetic about that, because she's a very hard person. But the reason I'm telling you is that the boys are not likely to have been fathered by me. Now, obviously, there's something's gone on. And if you...
Obviously, something's gone on. Obviously.
...are honest about it with me, I don't intend to sue you. And you can decide how you want to tell the boys. If you want me to be there at the same time, that's fine. But if you lie to me, then I will take action, and I'll decide how I'm telling the boys. And the immediate response I got back was, I am sympathetic, but whatever science says, those boys will always be yours.
Regin, from she's telling you that kind of response here, you know that those boys were not yours. They're the milkman's boys. There's some painter and decorator man that's been visiting, some delivery man that's been visiting. Could even be your brother's picnic. But they are not your boys from you get that type of response. I'm telling you.
Boys will always be yours.
Which was
It's slightly different than saying you are definitely the dad. When you were diagnosed, your sons were 21 and the twins were 17, I think.
Yes.
Look at them little big-head bowling ball picnic. They ain't got nothing for that man. Look at their round head and the man head square and he's got some kind of frog pouting lip. They're not his. Look for the man with one big old round head and you'll find the father for those children. Them children is not for that man.
When your then wife was pregnant on those occasions, did you ever suspect, have any inkling, ever think, oh, that's a bit odd, at the time of the pregnancy, through the birth, afterwards?
There was one or two occasions that after the boys were born, I thought that they didn't resemble me as much as, you know, you'd imagine that boys would.
They didn't look like you?
Well, they've got darker eyes than me. I'd have almost no body hair, and the boys have got very dark hairs on their legs and things like that. But around the time...
This is why it's important to have family. See, when your youth born, take your youth to your mother, take your youth to your old auntie, take your youth to people that know your old family and let them judge and place the youth down in front of them like Simba and the Lion King, yeah? Behold the youth and show them and let them say, yeah man, that youth is for you, and yeah man, that youth look like you. And you might be like, oh, it doesn't really look like me. But your auntie might be like, no, that look like Uncle Albert, or that look like Auntie June or Uncle Frank. Yeah man, that's spitting image of your uncle or spitting image of your older second cousin. It's important to take your youth to family if you're not even sure that the youth is yours. Don't be embarrassed. Drop the youth right at your old auntie door, your old uncle door, and say, this youth favour me? Is this my youth? What you think? Is this good? You got anything for me? Nah. Come like all them youth had was his elbow.
Pregnant. We'd been having unprotected sex for 7 years. Nothing had happened. Now, she always said to me, I have a tilted womb. I don't know what that is, but it means that it's harder for a woman to get pregnant. So...
Regin, she had a tilted womb. Next man was dislodging that womb and tilting that womb in a direction you couldn't reach.
I just thought it was her. And we'd gone for fertility treatment, or to see the GP to start the fertility process. And the GP said, well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to be tested, Mr. Mason, and then we test your wife. Now, it's likely to be 3 occasions of IVF that you're going to need. They're about £5,000 a time, so it's £15,000. But after that, there's a good chance you will have a baby. So when we went home, we both were working at Barclays at the time, and she said, look, you know, we've got our careers. We're both, I mean, yuppies was like in the 80s, a really like popular term for young people who were doing well in their careers. She said, we're both yuppies, let's just carry on with our careers and see how it goes. A few months later, she was pregnant.
15 grand in the 80s come like 30 grand in 2022. She decided 15 grand was a waste of time. She can use that money to put down on a house or put down on a new car or put down on a holiday trip around the world. She decided she ain't gonna waste no 15 grand, and she went to Joe Grind and he done the business, the both of you.
So I thought, oh my God, that's weird, because, you know, you often hear of people going for treatment and then suddenly naturally get pregnant. And she said, oh, it's just one of those things. So I did feel a little bit like that's a surprise, you know, because we go for to start the...
Brother, that's just a surprise. Who did you think you was? You think that was Mary Magdalene? You think that you was making children by immaculate conception? Oh, that's just a surprise. Been trying for 7 years, and the minute that you get a bill to say that it's gonna cost 15 bags to get a you, the woman's automatically pregnant, and you don't suss them things there, Bridget. My God, man.
Then decide not to, and she gets pregnant.
This is, I mean, you've described the turmoil, you've described it feeling like you were hit with a sledgehammer. Did you consider taking your own life?
Many times. The consultant said to me once, cystic fibrosis kicks in, and I'm one of the oldest people in the UK with cystic fibrosis, and probably the oldest person ever that I know of to be diagnosed with it.
The average death is...
Why is the woman asking him to consider taking his own life? Like, either she's got some background to the story, or she really thinks that a blow of betrayal so deep like this would make a man feel like he wants to take his own life. But if that's the case, if it's the latter and she feels that a blow like this would make a man feel like he wants to take his own life, why the judge never award him some more money for pain and suffering? It comes like that 250,000 works out to about 350 per month per child per year over 18 years. That don't look like there ain't no pain and suffering. That just looks like he got back the P that he would have otherwise invested for his use. There was no pain and suffering ever distributed in that offer where they agreed for the 250 bags. I'd have taken that woman to court all the way and put that in front of a jury and looked to get back a cold, clean meal for that. I'd have looked back for 1M in compensation. At the very, very least, 250 bags, if you're feeling suicidal, is way too cheap for a settlement done. Way too cheap.
And most children die a lot younger, like his sister as well, at 29.
So you know that you've not got a particularly pleasant future.
How did the knowledge then of discovering that your boys couldn't be yours affect the way you felt towards them, if at all?
They're still my boys, and I still think of them as my sons now, as I have been their dad.
Do you love them as much?
You can't not love someone.
I agree. They'd still be my boys. I'd still love them as much. Fraud was committed by the witch, not the children, not the man. It was by she and Joe Grind. I agree. He should still love them, and he should still look after the children. If they check for him, he should still check for them. They're still his boys. I agree with that.
Simply because, in fact, you know, even you know, if somebody committed some sort of offence against you, if the boys had done something wrong, I'd still love them. You know, but they've done absolutely nothing wrong. They're completely innocent in this as well. They are the victim, like I am. So, of course, yeah, my arms are still open for them, and I would dearly love them to, you know, to come back into my life.
Well, two of them, I understand, aren't in your life because they are cross that you sued your ex-wife, Kate. It's...
One was 23, one was 19, maybe the little one. When they grow up and they have understanding of women and relationships and see what can happen with paternity fraud, they will feel a lot different, Bridget. So don't watch the fact that they're cross with you in the short term. In the long term, if you raise them to be productive, well-thinking members of society, they will understand that the mother committed fraud against the children and she committed fraud against you as the man. She's a big-time fraudster.
Fraud, you said you've won this court case, this settlement of £250,000 from your wife. Why would you risk your relationship with your boys when you say you are their dad, you love them as much, by going ahead with that legal action?
I always brought my boys up to be honest, stand up to bullies, never...
Hold on. This woman is really challenging the fact that the man actually went ahead and brought legal action. Fraud is a crime. Because the fraud was committed from a woman against a man, this little radical feminist woman presenter is saying that the man shouldn't have even gone ahead with the fraud. Can you see how people don't rate man? Can you see how men are looking like second-class citizens in society? She's basically saying like, yeah, so what? You had a little fraud that was committed to you over like 23 years from the children was 0 to 23, 19 and 1 under 18. But don't watch that. Don't be trying to claim back no money. Don't be trying to take her to court. You should just accept that, you know, the children are yours and let bygones be bygones. That's a liberty. Men do not accept that type of attitude. It's a bad attitude to accept.
All the time, I was divorced from her for 10 years, and all the time they were with me, all the weekends that they were round at my house, I used to say to them, look, do not keep any secrets from your mum. Be open and honest with her. You know, anything I do, anything I say, I don't mind your mum knowing about it because I want an open, honest relationship with them. So I brought them up to be open, honest, stand up to what you think is right. Somebody committed a 21-year fraud against me.
But not them. And now you've lost two of them. They're not in your life.
But the point is, how do I allow somebody who's committed something like that against me, my ex-wife, to just go off scot-free? Because there are many times...
Because the risk is you lose two of them, and that's what's happened.
But they're grown men. They're grown men. They understand that I have to take action against it.
In families, when there's been tragedy or anything like this, history tends to repeat itself through generations. And Richard wants to ensure that those boys don't think this is normal behaviour.
She was completely denying that I wasn't the biological father. So up until the court case only a few weeks ago, she was still saying, even with DNA evidence, I'm sorry, the DNA evidence must be flawed.
And the court case
you're the biological
absolutely
father.
Settled that, yeah.
So if I am the biological father, those boys all have a risk of having cystic fibrosis. They all need to tell their insurance companies, they need to tell their potential partners, their children might have cystic fibrosis. I wouldn't even be allowed to meet them because people with cystic fibrosis cannot meet other people with cystic fibrosis because they cross-infect. Right. So by going via my solicitor, finally, she then, a few weeks ago, said, actually, I accept. You're not the biological father. The boys have got no chance of having cystic fibrosis from me. I can meet them now, and they're free of knowing that they've got a potential
Argument done. You're not the father. You had to pay all of them legal fees. You had to sue the woman. You had to take her to court. You have to communicate with her through a solicitor. I've been there, done that. Check my Black Families Matter slide and you'll see what that's all about. I know what you're talking about, and you're not the dad. It's hard. Men, you have to listen here. Paternity fraud is real. Men suffer. We've got to now start to talk about the way that men are being treated as second-class citizens. You could see that the journalist, the presenter, she was questioning him like, why? Why did you even bring a suit against the mother? Like, why did you do that? You're gonna risk losing the boys. And he was trying to say that, you know, a 21-year fraud was committed against me and those boys. There has to be some repercussions. Someone has to be answerable. Even the female presenter does not want other women to be held accountable. But we have to start holding everybody to be accountable. Everyone, for all wrongs in society. Fraud is a nasty crime, but it's hitting men hard in the paternity area because we're having a long-standing fraud. Oh, that man had it for 21 years. That's a life sentence. He can't have children with another woman and get back those 21 years. Now he's gonna be an old dad. He's gonna be 60, 70 before his children reach 20 years old again. He's been robbed. That woman should go to jail. Let me know in the comment section below if you think that women should be going to prison for paternity fraud. She should feel the bars for a 21-year fraud that was settled out of court for £250,000. Liberty. I'm 66 people. Catch you on the next one. Peace.